Hey everybody, I wanted to make a video series for new players starting off in Destiny 2. Destiny 2 may get memed on for being an MMO, but it is similar to an MMO in that when you first start the game, there is so much the game throws at you at once, and for somebody who is not used to that, it can be very confusing. There is a lot to know about how to get started in Destiny 2, and in this 3-part video series, I hope to make the game simpler for all of you. This video will be focused on the basics of the game, the introductory quest, how the weapon system works, all of the vendors in the tower, and what to start doing in the game. Part 2 will focus on the 3 main playlist activities, Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible. Part 3 will focus on how to level up, what weapons are good, what are the good perks for a weapon, the armor system, and builds. To start with, when you go to make a character, you will be given 3 options of what class you would like to make: Hunter, Warlock, and Titan. Regardless of what you may hear from your friends or Reddit, all 3 of the classes have their own strengths and weaknesses. Let's start with the Hunter. The Hunter is our stealthy marksman class with the main ability of the class being a dodge that allows you to instantly reload your gun or instantly recharge your melee ability. For PvE, the Hunter is a jack-of-all-trades, master of none, currently. One of the main draws of the Hunter in the high-end, difficult content, which is the content that really matters what class you are in my opinion, is their ability to make themselves or their entire team invisible and untargetable to the enemies, as well as having a great source of quick burst damage. Being able to make you or your team invisible is very, very useful for allowing a moment to breathe and let your health regenerate, or to make an otherwise risky play to go revive a teammate in a bad position. All classes share a way to instantly delete or do a lot of damage to a boss, but Hunters can do it the fastest from the furthest distance away, even if it's not going to deal the most damage among the 3 classes. Let's move on to Warlocks. Warlocks are our mage class in Destiny, with abilities to quickly deal tons of damage, clear out and lock down weaker enemies, or to support their team with healing. The main ability of the Warlock is the Rift, which allows them to place down a zone on the ground that allows themselves or their team to have constant healing or weapon damage for a set duration. The Warlocks are easily able to deal a lot of damage with abilities like Nova Bomb for quick high damage or Chaos Reach to deal tons of damage from a further distance away over a longer period of time. Warlocks also have access to arguably the single best ability in the game in Well of Radiance, which allows the player to place down a much larger zone on the ground that provides both healing and a 25% damage bonus to all players in the zone. The healing this ability gives is so great that in activities you are close in level to, you will almost never die when standing in this ability. Now let's move on to the Titans, our tank class. The main ability of the Titans is the Barricade, which allows the player to place down a wall in front of them that can either block damage from both sides or provide a weapon reload speed buff. The Titans are a very strong class to keep your team alive with abilities to block all incoming damage in the forms of a moving shield or a stationary dome. Not only are Titans good with defense, but they have great ad clear with the new Stasis subclass and the single greatest single target damage ability in the game in Thunder Crash with the exotic chest piece Curus of the Falling Star. I would recommend you pick one of the 3 classes to focus on for now, but I would highly recommend making all 3 classes at some point since you can make up to 3 characters anyway. Let's get into the game itself. When you first start the game, you will awake on the Cosmodrome in what used to be Russia hundreds of years after the solar system was invaded by various alien races. The first mission will have you running away from one of the main races, the Fallen. You will progress through the mission and at the end meet a character called Shahan, who will be your guide as you get started in the game. Shahan will have many missions and quests for you to go on to help you get the basics of the game. Go through and do all the quests, and when you finish all the steps, you will have access to the whole game, mostly. Each class has 3 light subclasses and main damage types, Solar, Arc, and Void. Each class will only have a single subclass to start with, and to unlock the other 2, you will need to open up chests anywhere in the game until you get a relic. When you have killed enough enemies, you will be given a special quest. Completing this quest will unlock another subclass. Repeat this process again to unlock your 3rd light subclass. Before we get into what to start doing first, let's go over the weapon system. There are 3 main types of weapons: kinetic, energy, and heavy weapons. Kinetic weapons will be in the top slot in the weapons section of our character screen. Weapons in this slot will not have an element attached to them and will do about 10% more damage to enemies that do not have a shield on. Energy weapons have one of the 3 main damage types on it: Solar, Arc, or Void. These weapons will do bonus damage to enemies that have a shield, and matching the weapon's element to the enemy shield will do big damage to the enemy. For example, using an arc weapon to damage an enemy with an arc shield will make the shield break much faster and do big damage to the enemy when the shield breaks. Heavy weapons are the weapons that will often be used to do damage to strong targets or bosses. This is where we will find weapons like rocket launchers, grenade launchers, swords, or machine guns. These weapons will require a special kind of ammo brick and will not drop as often as other ammo. In our kinetic and energy slot, you will come across a variety of weapon types. When you go to hover over a kinetic or energy weapon, you will notice that there will either be the word primary or special on the weapon. Primary weapons are the bread and butter add clear weapons that you will use to kill weaker enemies. These weapons will use the white ammo bricks you have seen on the ground. Primary weapons you will come across will be auto rifles, scout rifles, bows, hand cannons, pulse rifles, and submachine guns. Scout rifles and bows are great for long-range enemies. Hand cannons and snipers are good for close and mid-range enemies. Pulse rifles are going to have more range than auto rifles will, but less range than a scout rifle. Submachine guns, just like any other shooter, are going to be good for close-range fights. Special weapons are the weapons you will have less ammo for than a primary weapon, but are more powerful as a result. They will be useful in taking down stronger enemies like fallen servitors, captains, hive wizards and knights, vexed minotaurs and hydras, and so on. All weapons, except for heavy weapons, can either be primary weapon or a secondary weapon, as well as having each one being a kinetic weapon or an energy weapon. There are 3 different tiers of weapons and armor: blue, legendary, and exotic. Blues are only useful early on when first leveling up, and since blues are not special in any way, you should keep using whichever blue is the highest level until they stop dropping at a higher level than whatever you are. Legendary weapons are where things start to get more interesting. Legendary weapons have 2 main perks that will make the gun act differently than the same gun with a different set of perks. We will cover what perks are good on legendary weapons in part 3, but if you aren't sure if the gun's good, just keep it and get rid of it later if you don't want it. The final tier of weapons and armor are exotics. These weapons will often function very differently from legendary weapons, and will often have a perk on it that you won't find on another gun in the game. Let's take Thorn for example. It is a hand cannon that when you shoot enemies, the enemies take poison damage over time for a few seconds. Killing an enemy with this weapon drops behind a floating green remnant. Picking up this remnant partially reloads the gun and increases the poison damage against enemies. You will not find this effect on any other weapon in the game. You will be able to equip up to 3 blue or legendary weapons at a time, but you can only have 1 exotic weapon equipped at a time. If you have 2 exotic weapons you want to use, you're out of luck. Let's get into the vendors on the tower and what you will use each of them for. The first vendor we will start with will be the Postmaster. During your time playing, if there is an engram or currency that drops on the ground that you do not pick up, or if you run out of inventory space, this is where it will go. Next, we have the Eververse store, and this is Destiny's cosmetic microtransaction shop. Now, many of the items will be real money only items, but every week the Eververse offers some of these items for Bright Dust, which is an in-game currency you can earn through weekly and seasonal challenges and certain bounties. Keep an eye on the shop every week to see if there's something you want. Zavala is the strike vendor, where he will offer you bounties you can complete in strikes, as well as rewards for completing enough strikes to rank up. Shax is the vendor for the Crucible, where, just like Zavala, he will offer bounties and rewards for playing and ranking up in the Crucible. The Gunsmith offers bounties you can complete that will simply require you to get kills with various weapons, and these bounties can be completed anywhere you want. He also sells an item that allows you to infuse your gear to keep leveling up that specific auto rifle you really like, or any other weapon or armor piece that you're fond of. He also sells mods every day that you should absolutely take a look at, since some of these mods are going to be very good. The main thing he offers is different weapons every week that you can purchase if any of them look good. When you get to higher levels and start seeing prime engrams dropping, you will go to Master Rahul to turn them in for weapons and armor. If you find your inventory overflowing with weapons and armor you like, you can place them in the vault. They will never go away here, and anything you place in the vault can be picked up whenever you want. The vault is also shared by all three of your characters, so if you wanted to transfer a weapon from your Hunter to your Warlock, place it in the vault and then pick it up on your Warlock. If you join a clan, you can get rewards for completing activities as a clan from Hawthorne, along with clan-based bounties. Ada1 will be the vendor for Destiny's armor synthesis system, which is what Destiny calls transmog. She will also offer mods and infused materials similar to the Gunsmith. The game will walk you through the process to start armor synthesis, so I'm not going to be talking about it. Lastly, we have the Drifter, who is a vendor for Gambit and will work the same way Zavala and Shax do with what they offer. At the time of this video, Ikora Rey has no significant role in the tower, other than having to talk to her every now and then for a campaign step. Now let's get into what to actually do when you want to actually play the game. For free-to-play players, I gotta say, there's not a whole lot for you to do in terms of activities in the game. All the campaigns in the game require the purchase of the major expansions Forsaken, Shadowkeep, and Beyond Light. While you will not be able to do the whole campaigns, you will have access to the first mission of each campaign and every one of the planets. You will be able to wander around all the planets and discover the different areas they contain, as well as certain activities like the Blind Well on the Dreaming City, or the Altars of Sorrow on the Moon. If you're free to play, you will not be able to select any activity such as strikes, dungeons, or raids on the Tangled Shore, Dreaming City, the Moon, or Europa. The Strike playlist, Gambit, and all the Crucible modes are available free to go play, however. You'll also have access to the Prophecy Dungeon, which is located at a selectable mission in the Tower directory. But I would heavily advise you to go get as many good legendary weapons and exotics as you can get, because it will be difficult otherwise. You'll also have access to the Vault of Glass raid, located in the Legends tab in the directory. Just like with Prophecy, I would heavily recommend getting good weapons before setting foot in the raid, because it will be challenging if you don't. The last thing you will have access to is any and all seasonal events, such as the Dawning, Solstice of Heroes, Festival of the Lost, Moments of Triumph, and the Revelry. For those of you who have a desire to play all the game has to offer, and you have spent money on the game, you have quite the list of things to do. The first things I would recommend doing right away are the Forsaken and Shadowkeep campaigns. These campaigns do not take too much time to do, and will reward you with good weapons and armor along the way, exotics, and a very interesting storyline. Once you complete each of these campaigns, I would recommend you start the Beyond Light campaign, assuming you have bought it. Doing this campaign will not only give you access to various exotics, but also to the new subclass Stasis, which specializes in freezing and locking down enemies in ice. As you complete the campaigns, you will get quests that will lead you to an exotic weapon at the end, so I would recommend looking up a guide video on how to get them, as they're all very useful to have. Once you start getting better weapons and armor and you level up more, you can try your hand at dungeons and raids. which are the high-end endgame content in Destiny. Raids are 6-man activities that do not have a matchmaking system, so you will have to find people beforehand, where you will have to kill lots of enemies, solve puzzles, and perform different mechanics to clear each of the encounters. Dungeons are similar to raids, but are designed for 3 people and are nowhere near as complicated as raids, but they're still going to have their own mechanics for you to figure out. Neither raids or dungeons will tell you what you have to do. That is what you'll have to either figure out on your own or watch a guided video on how to do it. As you get to higher levels, you can also try and complete Nightfalls, which have a chance to award upgrade materials, exotics, and special Nightfall exclusive weapons. The harder difficulty the Nightfall, the better the rewards are going to be. The last main thing to do in Destiny is seasonal content. This is content that will stick around for a year and then will be removed from the game. Currently, in Season 14, the main activity to do is Override, which will have you picking up motes off the ground, off of enemies you kill, putting them into a conflux in the middle of the area, and killing a boss at the end. This activity can provide you with very good weapons that you can't get outside of this mode. Each season also has a storyline attached to it, and if you complete certain objectives for the season, you can also get a special title that will be displayed below your character's name. In the case of Season 14, the seasonal title is called Splicer. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and try and go easy on me in the comments section about the editing. It's the first time I've ever made a video or edited one, so I am far from having any professional experience editing software or having any professional microphones or anything like that. See you guys later, and eyes up, Guardians.